Okay, quick intro. It is January 7th, 2026. Just got back from very rare 2-week vacation. Longest I've ever taken, I believe. And went on a Caribbean cruise with my family. And family always sounds like my wife and kids, but in my case, my parents and my sister and her husband and her kid. And then my brother, who's hopelessly single by choice, like myself. Anyway, so refreshing. I didn't want to go. I never want to go. I never want to go out the door because I'm always trying to be productive with my ADD. But it was so great. I feel totally refreshed. And I'm hoping for big things this year, including my community, which I was hoping to launch a week from now. But I continue to consume so much content that I can't even get around to organizing it all. So probably now looking at Groundhog Day for those watching this actually around when this gets released. And this podcast is with Koki. She's back. Hopefully you saw the first couple with her. Had no intention of doing this many with her, but we just kept going and going on the first one. And then the same thing here. So many gems. I actually on a ship day, a sea day, meaning we didn't stop at a port on the cruise. I just sat on my Mac and rewatched this whole thing so I could find clips to use to promote it. And there were so many to choose from. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. As always, thanks for watching and or listening. Okay, welcome to the Cappy Hour Podcast, part 2 with Koki. Hi.
Hi, Cappy.
Hello. Thank you for joining me once again.
My pleasure.
For those who missed it, we, Koki and I know each other from my first sobriety community, Reframed. She is still a member of it. I've since switched communities, but we have remained in touch, and I think we could do 12 parts, Koki, but we'll at least do a part 2 for now.
Start with 2?
Yeah.
How you doing? You just hit 365 full consecutive days of no alcohol in your system. How's that feel?
That's right. Who knows when this will air by the time I officially get everything going, but yeah, last Tuesday, March 18th. Be funny if this airs in like August, but hopefully this will air in June, although who knows? People could be watching this year.
It's a good time of year. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to be with you anything around St. Patrick's Day or New Year's or even holidays.
I know. That is crazy that St. Patrick's Day was the last time I drank. It was even that night. I survived the whole day. I met my family in Boston. My sister's birthday is always the day before, and we did dinner in Boston. And then I went to my pizza shop that night where it was always a trigger. Great excuse to drink. But I didn't. And then I got home that night and I had some big decision to make, particularly about buying a new car. And it was one of those, the voice just, I guess, wore me down. It was like, you got to make this final decision and a bunch of other stuff. I knew I was coming up to like crossroads and leveling up. And I just said, yeah, the voice just talked me into it. And I'm sure I didn't help me. And I didn't make a single decision and ended up just goofing off on social media. In fact, I looked at my phone. I found someone I was texting with on a dating site. And around 9:30 that night saying, hey, are you free to talk? So that's probably all I ended up doing that night. But that's funny. Those initial intro calls I always needed to drink for them. Couldn't imagine doing those sober. And now I do them all the time. And like everything else, difficult things just become things. Sometimes even easy things. It's
funny how you say you couldn't imagine, but don't you find at this point where that's the way you used to speak? Like, I couldn't imagine. Well, now it's like, everything is possible. So now I can imagine. At one point, I couldn't imagine. And now you've given your brain more options on what to do in those situations where before it just seemed like one.
Yeah, that is true. I suppose the only time I say it now is if I think it's going to be a really mundane conversation. There's 2 ways an intro call can go. It can either be like a conversation or an interview. Interview meaning just Q&A with no real discourse. And that's not a good thing. So you want it to be a conversation. And then sometimes there's someone I know I shouldn't even I shouldn't even be considering dating them because I know it's not going to go anywhere. So anyway, I just say, I know, how am I going to make conversation out of this? And I dread it, and drinking would make that seem easier. But sure enough, I can just get through those as well. And sometimes those go well as well. So I guess the biggest thing I don't do is the unfounded fears. I just don't dwell on the worst case scenario anymore. I guess it's much more optimism, which might be the point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I always consider, that alcohol kind of gave me a glass ceiling, I guess, or it didn't show me the door handle. It just kept me in this room of, okay, this is your option. You can either feel what you're feeling right now, which is anxious and, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? I'm going to be uncomfortable. And alcohol is like, I can make you feel less uncomfortable. I can make you feel some familiarity. You know what it'll feel like. It'll feel better. Not too much now because you don't want it to slide over to the other side, but this is what it'll feel like. And you know it. Not drinking was like getting a key or scratching that glass and realizing it was a barrier, and that actually on the other side of it, it's like infinite how much more comfortable you can feel without, the use of alcohol. Like that your connection with people is true. Your intuition is true, where you're like, oh, this isn't going to work out romantically with this person. Am I still interested? Do I want to ask more questions? Or, I mean, time on earth is precious. Maybe this is where it ends. And it's nice to kind of know your intuition. My intuition was not strong when I was drinking. It was like option 1 or option 2, feel uncomfortable or drink. That's it.
Right.
You're closed into that familiar bubble.
Yeah. It's true. And this process is all about getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, which then isn't so uncomfortable after you surf that first wave or whatever.
Totally. Sometimes the hardest part, my yoga teacher says it, many yoga teachers say it, but we sit on the mat right in the beginning and just try and center. And she goes, you went through the hardest part of this class, which was getting here. It's like the thought of like starting something that's challenging is way more painful usually than just doing it and starting.
Yeah. That is very true. I heard a podcast where the woman talked about even, social anxiety, going somewhere that's awkward. She said at most that'll last for an hour, which does sound like a long time, but still, she goes, after the first hour, you get more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So you just got to stick it out. Yeah. It's.
And you realize you have choice in this world. I don't think I realized I had so many choices, like infinite choices. To be get out of a conversation if I don't want to be there. Leave a party.
Right.
If I don't want to be there. No longer feeling like obligations that I used to feel. The people pleasing.
It's so true. I had an old therapist. She used to say to me, Brian, you don't have to be the clown. You don't have to entertain everyone. Because that's why a big reason I pre-drank. I just wanted to walk in that room, not feeling any discomfort, and then being, the fun guy the minute I walked in. She said, you don't have to do that. And this might dating events is what that was at the time. And she goes, just go sober and you can always leave. I could even drink when I got there, just if I didn't even pre-drink. I couldn't even not pre-drink. I mean, it's amazing. And the handful of times in my entire existence, I lived in Boston 15 plus years, maybe 5 times I ever didn't pre-drink before I went out. And they always end up being the best nights. I drank slower. It worked. The alcohol worked for a little longer. Because when I pre-drank, blow right through the good buzz, it'd be over. My anxiety would be already spiking by the time I got there. I might have said it last time. Alcohol is the only anxiety pill that we take that, the label basically says it'll work for 20, 30 minutes and then it'll make it worse.
Yeah.
And yet we still take
it. But it's like, I always think of, alcohol as an ex-boyfriend or hookup or whatever that you didn't realize you were dating, for me, 35 years. that it'll always doesn't want you to think about the times. You don't put it in your bank like, you know what, I didn't pre-drink that time and I had a better time. It's more like alcohol's louder, like, no, remember, you have the most fun with me. Think about me, I'm the most fun. We pre-drink, that's what we do, wants to attach itself. Don't think about the time that it worked without me.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, you can already start having fun now in your head. Why wait? Why delay the gratification?
Yeah.
You can get in the shower with a buzz, or you can get out of the shower.
Yeah. Look at how much fun life is, as long as I'm attached to you.
Even the subway, I took the subway a lot to go to bars, and or rode my bike, and that would be more fun too, which it really wouldn't. But it was like, oh yeah, and you'll probably talk to people more. Who knows? You might meet somebody. I mean, the ideas are put in your head.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And then you kind of switch to that point of just not caring what anybody thinks, until the next day. When your life review happens and you're like, I don't know what happened.
And you had some great quotes last time about, the bad boyfriend and that you're just never gonna go back.
I mean, it was the airport that really got me. I think I was 9 months alcohol free, and I went to the airport with my kids. It's like 9 a.m. between Seattle and Anchorage, so we have to get up early because we live in a small town. So a small town, you take the small town airplane to the main airport to get any of those connecting flights. And so we always have like a 5 a.m. flight, and so then we're having breakfast and stuff in Seattle for a couple of hours before the connecting flight. And, I find myself just automatically looking for the bars, automatically looking for the bathrooms, how close the bathroom and the bar is to the gate. And I was doing this without consciously knowing I was doing it. And I'm holding on to the kids. And I found myself going, wait a minute, I'm not going to the bar. I'm not going to try and squeeze in a couple of drinks before the flight and then squeeze in some bathroom time. Because if I have a beer and, at the bar, at the airport, they're like, make it bigger, time doesn't exist. It's like, it's time to start drinking at the bar the minute the bars are open, they're open for breakfast. So, it's like that excuse to not think about, you're not driving, you're getting on a plane or whatever. It makes the flight more fun to have to pee the whole time. Like, not really, but, and I just remember just thinking, whoa, I've been holding on to this partner for so long that's making me think about him. Like, hey, think about me. Like, go drink. We gotta go drink. We gotta plan out our time in between flights. And that's when I realized it was like having a boyfriend I didn't know I was having, because I was thinking about it all the time, and I was doing mental gymnastics and planning for something that I didn't, and automatically planning for it. And so when I realized that in the airport, I was like, oh yeah, I broke up with this person. I don't have to think about this person anymore or map out what I'm doing around this person.
Yeah.
It was liberating. And then from now on, framing it in that, like, it was a relationship I was in that I didn't really realize I was in. And I was making everything I could. I mean, I didn't realize it, but I was. It was like, oh, I'm going over to somebody's house. Well, how many bottles of wine should I get? Should I also get like, I was thinking about how to attach and bring my partner with me into everything. Celebrations, all of it. And I was a celebratory drinker. I wasn't so much of a, like, I'm sad, so I need to drink, which is a tricky gray area, Oh, I don't have a problem. I'm happy. I'm a happy drunk, Like, I bring the life of the party to the party. I bring my boyfriend alcohol with me everywhere, I make sure that everybody has it. I make sure everybody has a drink, like, everybody's attached. But then when I realized I didn't have it, it was like, oh, wow. That was a intense relationship I was in.
Yeah, I likened it to an abusive boyfriend, really,
Yeah.
That we keep going back to, and everyone judges a woman that goes back to a guy, but I relate to it so much more now. You romanticize it, you just remember the good parts, you think, oh, maybe he slash it's going to treat me better this time. You know, it becomes
It looks so good. Remember the good times.
Yeah. And
that 20 minutes is way better than like what I'm feeling right this second.
Yeah. Because it can be good. That's the other problem. You can go back and it can be good for a day, maybe a couple, maybe even a week, but then it always reverts right back. So
Totally.
I want to talk more about that, but I just remembered you reminded me that whole thing about the hard part is just getting there. And it's true. There's so many times I would envision the worst case scenario and treat it like life or death. Even those calls, those dating calls, those screening calls, I would treat it like this one's going to be my future wife. So it's got to go perfectly. So, I would drink on that basis. But where I'm really thinking of is at my pizza shop when I started trying to sell it, which was a year ago. So we're in March now. It was a year ago last January. So it was 2 months before I officially quit is when I really tried to start selling. And I have to meet with the prospective buyer and the landlord, which were there was one main guy was a total curmudgeon in his 70s, and he had 3 siblings. They were all in their 70s. And I knew they were going to ask me a bunch of tough questions. They were going to grill the prospective buyer. And I was treated like life or death. Like this is going to be my only buyer, and it had to go great. And then I didn't want to be embarrassed if I couldn't answer their questions properly. And so I would drink just to relieve that discomfort. But if I could have just made it to the meeting without the drink, I would have made it totally fine. And that's where I regret it, because that would have made me stronger getting through it. That would have made me stronger for the next day and the next day. I mean, it's such a paradox, if you will, right? Because we drink because we're weak and we can't handle the discomfort, but that just makes us weaker. And if we could just suck it up to overcome, I say now, embrace the discomfort, embrace the tension, embrace the fear, and it creates greatness, which creates resilience, which is the key to beating this thing, right? But
yeah, and when you say embrace the fear and the discomfort, the thing that helps me most, because of course it shows up all the time, we're human, right? Like this is how we frame our experiences, warning labels, and here's how we can get out of it fast. If something feels uncomfortable, like we've figured it, our brain's doing its job. But I think the big thing for me when I think about all the bad stuff is I try really hard to stop and say, okay, Koki, yes, that thinking has worked for us before. It's not working right now. So let's put in some like encouraging thoughts. You're putting on your yoga pants. You might be a few minutes late, but what's the worst thing that can happen? You don't have to think you're not going to go to class now. Like now it's doomed. You can't be late. Like you don't want to work out anyway. Or like, I have all those thoughts. I'm like, yes, those thoughts. I understand why you're there. You're there to soothe me. You're there to comfort me. You're there to offer me options that we've used in the past, like not doing it or giving up or using, unhealthy coping mechanisms. We're not doing that now. We're practicing new coping mechanisms. So thank you. Take a seat. Let's bring in some better thoughts, like thoughts that are strong and powerful and helpful. And new, they're new. These thoughts now of not drinking about it and not beating yourself up about it. And, like they're new thoughts, but let's let them have a little bit more of a seat at the table now, yeah. Not be mad at yourself for having those thoughts either. That's another big thing that's part of the practice, I think, in the work.
Yeah, I love your kind self-talk. We talked about that last time. I was a little more rough on that voice of telling it to F off. But, I did come around and try to show it some compassion because it's true. It's trying to protect us, you. It just remembers a time when it did work for us. Doesn't anymore, but it can't get through its head. And as I've learned from studying neuroscience, it's just, it remembers every time that alcohol worked for us. So when we're in any kind of difficult situation, it searches through your files in your brain to find a scenario where it worked for you in that situation in order to give you permission to drink. And once you have that permission, you become powerless. And I mean, that's really how it works. Your prefrontal cortex literally shuts down when you get a craving. You're just left with your midbrain, which is just about survival. And once there's no free will in the midbrain. All the rational thought and willpower is all in the prefrontal cortex that literally shuts down. And you're left and you're as helpless as a person in the desert that's offered a bottle of water after 5 days. They tell you in exchange you're going to lose everything, your house, your kids, everything. But of course, you're going to take the water. And that's the same thing. So, you have to, that's what the voice is. It is the neural pathway that you built up all these years that is convinced that alcohol is the answer to everything. And the only way,
it's the easy way. It's like, oh, well,
yes.
this was easy. It worked fast. Let's just do that. This is in our toolkit. We know exactly what's going to happen with it. I think the big part for me there was thanking it. Thank you so much for doing your job. This is what I've taught you. And I've also taught myself that nothing else is easy. Like not drinking is going to be not easy. So why would I do it? So I need to start telling myself, give myself options that are also easy, like it's easy, and start simple, right? I like to start easy. Like, okay, I'm going to be 2 minutes late for something. Let's just see what happens when I'm 2 minutes late for something. Oh, look, nobody yelled at me. Everybody was fine. I still had a great class. You know what I mean? Like, okay, let's remember it's easy. It's okay. It's easy. It's not huge, like and put it in the easy, what you say, like the midbrain, right? Like make it a part of the easy strategy.
Right. I'm looking something up. Hold on 1 second. I think someone wrote a blog of what if it were easy. One of the coaches on Refirm. Yeah, she said, what would this look like if it were easy? It's such a lovely and deceptively leveraged question. It's easy to convince yourself that things need to be hard, that if you're not redefining, you're not trying hard enough. This leads us to look for paths of most resistance, creating unnecessary hardship in the process.
Yeah.
That all made sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you can look at things that just like those intro calls, what if this is gonna be an easy call? What if the meeting with the landlords is gonna be easy?
Yeah.
Just look at that approach,
It doesn't have to hurt.
Right. Yeah.
That was a quote that came from me. Like, it doesn't have to hurt. Even with things as big, like for me right now, as I'm avoiding doing my business taxes. And I'm like, it doesn't have to hurt. I could just sit down for 20 minutes with like a favorite album, like I could put on the Beastie Boys and like do taxes. It doesn't have to like be this painful, morose thing where I'm like looking at numbers, and I could just start organizing my receipts to, Paul's Boutique and like have fun. It doesn't have to hurt.
Yeah, I have a quote here that says willpower can also be in a negative direction. We just think of it as positive, like, abstaining from something, but you can have negative willpower. It says this involves a focused determination to achieve negative goals, like self-sabotage. Mm-hmm. And it's true. We talked about that last time, right? Like self-harm, and drinking is a form of self-harm. And often it's because you don't love yourself. That's another paradox, or whatever the right word is. You don't love yourself because you keep disappointing yourself. And the only way to really gain self-love is through the sobriety process, which we've both achieved, total self-love. But
I can't tell you how proud I am of myself every day. Even this morning, I felt proud. Like,
yeah,
I'm so happy that I don't have the weight of the former partner of alcohol anymore, which had so many consequences. Just waking up knowing that I don't have to deal with that. Just even like, oh, I shouldn't have drank last night. Because do you find yourself still carrying it? I carry it a lot. Like, I think I'm going to wake up with some guilt, or I'm going to wake up feeling more sluggish, or I'm going to be embarrassed at a doctor's appointment and think of how to lie about, how much I drink during the week. Or, for me now, I've been vegan for over 400 days now, and now I take really good care of myself. I have that part of my life kind of in check. I've never have. And if I started drinking, that would all come apart. Because it's a pathway of loving myself, of like showing up. How am I going to show up for a living today? I get to live right now. So how am I going to show up living? And it feels really nice not to have the weight of, yeah, I'm doing everything right, but I'm still having, still having a happy hour drink every day. Like I would say things like that, and then I would just feel shame and the weight of it. And that's gone. That I don't have to carry that anymore. But it's there. It's kind of like a phantom limb. I still wake up
Wow.
on a Saturday morning going, I didn't drink last night. Okay, you inspired me to go to karaoke because
No
you
way.
said you sang. And I love karaoke, and karaoke is one of the first things on my list, on my preventative list that Reframe really encouraged us to make. Like, okay, what do they call it? It was like making a plan, a prevention plan. So writing down the things you'll want to drink or you associate with drinking, and then making a prevention plan, like what can you do. So I made a list of like 10 things right away when I first quit. And karaoke was one of them. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to get up and sing in front of people without a drink. So I conquered that within the first month. Like I went and I sang, but it was painful. But it was more painful in thought than it was in actual action,
Yeah.
And so last night I went and sang, and I still feel the fears, and I see people drinking around me, but it doesn't really bother me. I don't want to drink. I'm just like, whoever needs what they need, do what you need to do. But for me, it was more like, I want to feel what I feel while I'm singing, and then also afterwards, which is a lot of elation. It's like, oh, I just did that. And look, it didn't matter how well I did. People were supportive and and I did it. I'm supportive. It doesn't even matter if anybody even listened to me. But it ended at 10 o'clock. That's late for me these days. I got in my car and I was so elated from actually being able to being able to sing. And I felt like, I shouldn't be driving. I felt that phantom limb of getting in the car after having drinks going to karaoke. So I thought I really was talking my brain into well, maybe you shouldn't be driving.
Wow.
Because I was remembering what it felt like to drink and drive at 10 o'clock at night, There was no way at 10 o'clock at night when I was drinking that I had not had a drink if I went to karaoke. So it was that familiar thing of oh, wait, I'm not drunk. I don't even have anything in my system besides some water that I drank before I sang. But I still felt the elation from singing. So, it was just the association. That was really an interesting feeling of oh, wait, I'm not drunk. It's such a cool feeling.
And I have a million comments, but I got to ask what you sang.
So I sang 3 songs.
Wow.
The first song I sang with a friend who every time I see him there wants to do a duet. So I sang Jackson, June and Johnny Carter Cash.
Okay.
Johnny Cash and his wife sang the song called Jackson. And then
Never
I
heard of
sang one of my top 10 favorite songs, which is This Must Be the Place, Naive Melody by Talking Heads.
Jeez.
And the
I'm
third song I sang...
waiting for you to say Free Falling or something,
No. This
some
Must Be
song
the
I might
Place
have
by
heard of.
Talking Heads. I love that song. It really just reminds me that it's okay. This is life, and we are here, and be grateful for the moment. And Everything I Wanted by Billie Eilish.
Okay, at least I've heard of her. Well, I've heard of the other ones, but heard of the people, but not the songs. I don't know any of those songs. That's so funny.
I'd never sang the last 2 songs in public before, and that was really fun.
That's great. That's great.
There's got to be a first time for everything, right?
Yeah, good for you. My friend Maria and I in the Drunken Boston days would do the picture. Kid Rock, Sheryl Crow. I saw your picture today.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, huh?
Change my ways. Yeah, it's great.
Duets are fun.
Yes, I was going to say, and even since the alcohol did not give me any extra courage that I thought it would, it helps to drag someone up with you because I've got a pretty bad voice, as you can hear.
Well, it's just fun. I mean, that's the thing. It's it's not about displaying your talent. It's not, I'm not going to an open mic competition. It's more about having fun and showing other people that you can have fun and face your fears and have fun and, pretend you're on The Voice if you want to.
This is an unbelievably good segue because I wanted to discuss this, although I got 20 other things we got to circle back on. And this was the example I mentioned of the dating screening call. This is interview versus conversation. I don't even think we've asked a single question, or you asked me 20 minutes ago about my, hitting my 1 year. So, and then it just leads to other stuff. But I'm tempted to even come back to it, but now I'll go with it. My new mantra I just learned is embrace the cringe, because I read a quote that said, don't kill the part of you that's cringe, kill the part that cringes. Although better said, I found, is heal the part that cringes. So Taylor Swift actually made it popular of don't kill the part of you that is cringe, kill the part that cringes, is what she said. And talked about women with shame and all that. And she basically said, screw it. You got these guys like Trump, Musk, they don't apologize for anything, and she's like, neither should we. And so, and it was a Newsweek article. It basically applauded Gen Z that go on TikTok that show their, unvarnished selves. They're not afraid of being ostracized. They just put themselves out there. So I used to worry about that. I never fit in. The thought of doing something that would make people cringe would completely, freak me out, thinking people weren't going to like me. And now it's like, F them. They're the ones, they need to heal the part of them that cringes. It also means heal the part of you that cringes about yourself. But I take it also mean, I used to cringe at someone maybe that was bad karaoke. But no, now you should just be applauding them at putting themselves out there. Yeah.
And loving themselves enough to do it. When you come at it from a spirit, when you come at it from that lens, doesn't matter if anybody else is feeling the way you used to feel, that lens, that's the world you're living, that's the world you're creating for yourself. And it's a world of acceptance and love and happiness and pride and just true joy. And let everybody else be curmudgeons. Let them be bitter,
Right.
Just, you can always go back. You know what it's like to judge people, be bitter, be upset, choose a drink. You did it. You know how to do it. You can always go back to it, which always helps me. It was I know I could always go back. I know it's always there waiting for me. I know I could pick up the phone and call that ex-boyfriend and be right at the door, But I'm not choosing that now. And kind of part of that for me, my rebel spirit is, if I know it's there and I could choose bitter, then I have a choice of, does this feel better? And knowing I have the choice liberates me. If I feel like I had to quit drinking or somebody made me quit drinking, as we know, a lot of people join this journey because they got a DUI or because they were forced to quit drinking, that kind of experience is a very different one than the one where you feel like you have a choice. And I'm the type of personality, I know this of myself, that if you tell me I can't do something, then I'm going to automatically want to do it 20 times more.
Yeah.
So when I told myself, you can go back to gossiping and judging and not liking yourself and, drinking, you can go back always. But what feels better right now? And if I honestly look at it, it always feels better to choose the side of joy and love and acceptance and connection. It just honestly feels better. We just didn't. We found it scary. It's the feather bed on the other side, remember?
That's right. Or it's life outside of prison. It's, we kept recriminating ourselves because we couldn't imagine a life without it. We kept putting ourselves back in prison. We were living in a prison with no bars, but yet we didn't want to leave it.
And our generation took what the generations before of, you don't behave outside of a structure or else it is cringe or else it is wrong. And that's the old adage of choosing what's right and wrong and making sure everybody else fits in that bubble too, which is, going to be the demise of humanity in a lot of ways, because I need to resist the urge to be right a lot. And I just need to feel what feels right and aligns for me, but not place that on anybody else, which it was really helpful in those moments of cringe. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much not to cringe at right now. Like if you turn on the news and, you know, so I'm finding myself in everybody at this point in time, really that feeling of like, oh, the reason that feels cringe is because there's a part of myself I need to heal, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That person's expressing something that I'm telling myself is wrong. And I want to break those cycles of like what our parents were taught and, what they taught us. And like this new generation, you're saying they're just so much more free to be themselves. Now they have other things going on, the kind of anxiety they have going on with all the information that they're getting. But that's another thing to heal. But at least they're more unabashed about being themselves. And I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. It is. It is. So I sang at the end of my latest YouTube video, and I said at the end, I said, "Hey, if you cringe at that, you need some healing."
I know, I saw it. That's why I said you inspired me to go to karaoke.
Oh, bravo. All right. Excellent. Excellent.
Subscribe
Excellent.
and like, people. Subscribe and like. You can hear Cappy sing.
And my buddy Matt, who loves to drill me on everything and debate everything, but he was right in this case. He said, "Well, isn't there times you can legitimately cringe?" And I said, "Yeah, if it's inappropriate, if someone's reaming a waiter, waitress, in a restaurant, or even maybe someone's singing somewhere where it's not appropriate at all, maybe, something like that." But we determined something like someone singing karaoke, if anything, you should only cringe as long as there's an element of humility, we kind of decided. I mean, this is subject to further debate, but we were saying if someone clearly acted like they thought they were a great singer and they were really bad, maybe you cringe at that. But in general, you should just be applauding the people.
But even at that, let them feel great about themselves.
Oh, very good. Okay, you hear that, Matt? Yeah.
Just let them feel great about themselves. I think I do honestly have very honest cringes about sometimes there's a lot of songs that do not hold up well. Like somebody will sing a hip hop song from even 8 years ago, and it is very disrespectful to people and women especially, and some of that makes me think like, oh, I'm so glad we've grown as a society, but we don't know till we know, right? Like that's how I can heal that cringe. I think is more like, ooh, like if you sing like Belle Biv DeVoe's Poison, okay? I love that song. It's a horrific song for women. Horrific. But in the climate, it didn't feel that way. It felt almost empowering. Like, look at that woman. She's got some power, But what I can remember is that we don't know until we know. So hopefully we're having an open-minded society that can embrace the fact that we're growing and that we're recognizing what doesn't sound right anymore. And so it doesn't work for us anymore. It doesn't mean that song doesn't still freaking rock. Like it still sounds good. I could still sing along. Never trust a big butt and a smile.
I was going to say, I don't know the lyrics. That's a good point. I thought you just meant you cringe because it doesn't carry and it's just not a good song choice, basically. Yeah, you were judging the song choice. But you mean the lyrics. Like, what do you think of, this is total segue, but quickly, "Baby, It's Cold Outside." And I will tell you, I don't know. I initially joined the camp.
I want to know what you think.
All right. I initially joined the camp that said, I'm not usually banning to ban anything. But at first I was like, yeah, that's awful. The guy's, clearly just trying to get the woman so drunk to take advantage of her. And I don't like the line, yeah, what is it? Have one more, I shouldn't.
Say, what's in this drink?
What's that? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Say, what's in this drink?
Yeah. But then I guess I came around to think, but for 50 years or whatever, we never thought of it. I never questioned it once. It's almost, like unless you spike drinks, why would you think of it? Although a flip side is, what else would that mean other than it's just strong, right? But in the end, it seemed like a good-natured song. We didn't take it wrong for all these years, and suddenly someone decoded it to be really bad. So I don't know, but I will.
It's a beautifully melodic song that is really fun to sing.
Right.
I am glad somebody questioned it because there was a point when I was singing it going, this does not sound right. Like, and I used to sing it so happily when I was younger. But then as I got older and as the climate of the world has changed where we do recognize our actions, I think it's good to question it and just recognize it was a time and place,
Right.
There was a time and place when Bill Cosby was Dr. Huxtable, and I loved him. And he taught me how to be a parent. And now I don't think of him the same way. And that's okay. We don't have to hold on to the past.
Yeah.
We can learn from the past.
He is an evil human being, but I have to throw out my favorite, I hate the man now, honestly do, but my favorite episode or just the favorite segment I'll never forget. He was going to a car shop and he was wearing like sweatpants. He wanted to look like, he was an ordinary person. And some guy sees him, like one of Theo's friends, and he's like, or maybe I almost feel like it's Gilbert Gottfried actually. He was like, Dr. Huxtable,
right.
How you doing, Dr. Huxtable? And he was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It totally exposed him as a doctor. So we assume they charge him more because he was a doctor for the car. But
totally.
That scene has always stuck with me. I thought it was a funny scene.
So just like that song, I have love for The Cosby Show. I have love for that character of Dr. Huxtable. I have love for that family. I feel like Bill Cosby was a very hurt man and hurt people. But people have spectrum, they're all over. And there was also like that character. So I'm not going to put the things together, I don't think I can watch The Cosby Show really anymore. But just like that song, Baby It's Cold Outside, I'm not putting that on anymore, really. I loved it at one point, but it's not that great of a message. It's not a good message. We can update it if we can, because the melody is more beautiful than anything.
I was just gonna say. So then I didn't like the woke versions, or I couldn't. Yeah, I wasn't crazy about the woke versions. Or
we can just let it be. Yeah, just let it be.
Well, I was gonna say now I can't listen either. Although I think now I'm back to listening. When I first hear it on, I'm like, whoa, they're playing the original again, and then I'm like, you know what? It is a catchy song, and
it's real catchy.
Yeah,
really well written. But I don't know about you. Ever since I quit drinking, and I've become more balanced as a human, where I see myself and others, so I have a lot more compassion for myself. The more radical self-love I have, the more compassion I have for other people, because I see myself as having a human experience as everyone else is having, even for somebody like Bill Cosby.
Yes, I have tremendous.
I don't want to be polarizing anymore. And we live in a world that just offers you an opportunity to polarize yourself and, disconnect as much as possible. And so there's certain music I don't listen to anymore. It just doesn't track the same. It's not that I didn't love it, and I can appreciate that I did love it, and I don't have to vilify it. It's the messages aren't coming through that feel good anymore. There's TV shows I don't really watch anymore. This is the life I'm living. So what am I going to spend my time doing in this life, And what information am I going to put in my head? I just find myself listening to like frequencies more, or very positive, uplifting connection kind of music, and documentaries about, loving the world and knowing this planet more, and getting to know other cultures. It's like, that's the kind of stuff I want to fill my life with now. There was a point I was listening to Baby It's Cold Outside. There was a point I was listening to Belle Biv DeVoe, and it brought me to this point here. So I thank it. And now I'm filling my life with more nutritious food for me now,
Yeah. They say if you watch the Michael Jackson documentary, you'd never listen to his music again. I haven't watched it, and I still listen to his music. I don't go out of my way, but when it's on the radio, actually
Off
a lot.
the Wall is like a perfect album.
Really?
It is. But it's hard to ever listen to Pretty Young Thing again on Thriller.
Yeah. I was about to say, you're old school, because I don't even... Oh, I'm looking it up.
Off the Wall was...
Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Great song. Rock With You. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. I got it somewhere over here in my record collection.
Yeah.
I still love that Michael. I even posted that in an Instagram. I had a post. I still have love for this Michael, because that was a time in my life I was falling in love with pop music.
Yeah. And I think to your point about Dr. Huxtable, I do have more empathy for him, for Michael Jackson, if he's even guilty, if he is guilty, I even have empathy because of our own disorder. Now I appreciate other disorders. I mean, it's really
Totally.
hard. It's hard enough for us with alcoholism stigma to raise our hand to get help. People still can't in year 2025. Someone might be watching this in the year 2040. Just discovered me. Hello. Welcome to the future. But
You lucky person.
drinking is the new smoking, and people are still afraid to even admit they don't do it, including on job interviews. A woman said that, and I said, they should love, and I don't, hey, everyone's got to make their own decisions, but they should love you. They know you're never going to call in sick because you're hungover. You're never going to be, drinking in the afternoon. You're going to never do anything inappropriate at the office but people still can't even admit it. So, but my point is, so people with
because they're in the room, they don't know where the handle is to the door to get out.
Right. So people, this is much for another episode, but people that have other issues like that might be minor attracted people. That's a term, MAP. They've made it more, pedophile is the worst word in the world. If you're attracted to a minor, what are you supposed to do? Raise your hand and say, I'm a pedophile? Like, no one's going to do that. And the more we vilify them, the harder it makes it for them to get help. Just like with alcoholism, the more we vilify drunk drivers, most of those people probably didn't plan to drink at all that day. Never mind enough to have, gotten to a state that they never should have driven in. So, for minor attracted people, what are they supposed to do? So, the only difference between them and a drunk driver is drinking and driving, you're spinning the wheel on whether you take someone's life. A person that messes with a minor, they're pretty much taking their life. So that's is a distinction that I understand and appreciate. But the only way to solve it.
Well, you really bring up the point for me, which is my work right now, which is the old Reframe coach Jay says he has a podcast called Don't Touch My Mindset. And I think about that a lot. If my mindset right now is about connection and compassion and radical self-love, are there exceptions? Like you're talking about exceptions with cringe. I don't want there to be. So when I think about like, okay, come at me with something that's going to like destroy my mindset and take me straight back to that. No, that's wrong. That's right. It's not that I'm saying there's nothing right about taking someone's life, or abusing someone in any way. But how can I keep my mindset from becoming the, like, you are a terrible person? And for me, that's the compassion of if somebody is having an addiction to a substance, if somebody is having an attraction to a minor, what is going on? Where does the healing begin for that person? What is real? Because this is a symptom of some deep pain, some deep healing that needs to happen. This is a human that is living life with something that is just totally off balance and cannot be making them happy.
Right.
How can I have compassion for even somebody? And, I even think like if somebody took my kids, how could I have the mindset that is like that would be the scariest thing in my life if somebody harmed my children. So my mindset with people that are in a place of doing terrible things is, where do they need to heal? Like, where is the love that is missing in their life? I'm not marking anything as right or wrong. I mean, wrong, yes, but like that kind of deep compassion is where the growth really happens. It will help us find good solutions for people. Just like not drinking now, we're not vilifying people who don't drink. We're giving them an amazing amount of options. For a while, it was only in-person meetings with Alcoholics Anonymous, where the rules there, I mean, you think Reframe rules about not having, not pouring out in front of people or mentioning, what you were drinking are harsh. Like Alcoholics Anonymous, like I don't think you're even allowed to like talk to people until after the meeting. And that works in that structure, but for some people, but now we have options because we are recognizing it. We're opening the door to it, right? Like alcohol is now causing cancer. Let's really look at it now. Maybe we should really look at it now. And like, maybe we should have something besides O'Doul's for an option. It's okay for you to go to a bar if you want to sit down with a friend and consume something. And it doesn't have to be alcoholic. You know, Tom Holland just started that beer company called Bureau. And it's like for guys his age in their 20s who have to like have a work meeting in the morning and they don't want to be hungover, but they still want to go have a beer with their friends after playing, you know, football or soccer or something at the pub. Here's an option. Have Bureau. It tastes delicious, but without the consequences in the morning.
Is it NA beer?
Uh-huh.
So,
and that was his whole thing. It's like, you don't have to not be a drinker to enjoy an NA beer. And it's like, thank you for bringing more options to the table. Thank you for helping us heal this, you know?
You're making it sound, though, I hate to be difficult, like he invented NA beer. I don't know.
No.
Is there anything different?
He didn't.
No,
it was just that somebody in their 20s in this world that's looking, you know.
He's making it fun. I think I already got it. Yeah.
He's making it fun. And he's also making it like people who maybe are sober curious are thinking, well, I either have to quit drinking and not have any more fun anymore, or I'm just going to stay on this path of drinking, you know? He's opened up the playing field for his demographic that he's seen, which is my buddies who like need to know they have more choices than drinking or not drinking.
Wait, you got me onto something. An ad, you know, someone just saying you never see super intoxicated people on liquor commercials, and they said, what are they, embarrassed by their customers? You know, so an NA beer commercial, they could have the exact same commercials of people having fun, playing sports at sporting events, whatever, drinking NA beers, because that would actually be more realistic. I mean, I know there's plenty of people that don't have the disorder, don't have problems, that do have fun with drinking for hours on end, but still, the reality, because you show these people that drink at NA, show them later in the night, still having fun. Then show them even the next day. Show the alarm clock.
Their text in the morning, you know?
Yeah. That's great. Happily just carefree. But even the alarm clock goes off at 6 a.m. Just popping out of bed. You know, it's unfair to say. I guess
what I'm saying, Cappy, is like you brought up something as serious as pedophilia, right? Like that's an awful. I can't imagine what it would be like to feel that way about a minor. That's awful. I think you cannot feel, I don't even know what to say. But I think if it's talked more about, just like drinking and not drinking and options, it could help us find solutions for people who are having those kind of feelings or who are having this disorder, to be able to say, I am having this disorder. How can you help me? What options are there for healing, right? And I know that's a far cry away from what we were talking about with non-alcoholic beer, but I think we're at a point right now where the options for us and to be able to talk about it and to like go to social media, and of course that's not going to, I mean, we really went down a weird road. I'm just saying, like, we're talking about it now. It is something in, you know, the zeitgeist, to a point where we can talk about it. It's not like with some humor, right? Yeah. Not that we would ever talk about pedophilia with humor, but at least it would be nice that people could get help right away without actually harming anyone.
Yeah. I mean, initially my goal was to change the world's view, help them understand alcoholism and reduce the stigma. But it's really expanded into all disorders, and pedophilia is one of them. My buddies like, don't talk about that. And I knew I was going to eventually. This is the first time I really had publicly. But I even interviewed a guy, just one-on-one, not recorded, but a guy that had been molested because he's one of us. So with the alcoholism, so I said, I've got this working theory. Please don't be offended, but you know, I'm curious your take that guy had a disorder just like us, that even harder to raise his hand and get help. So do you understand?
Damn near impossible. Do you know anybody that would ever admit that?
Right. What was he supposed to do? So, and it's awful that he acted on it, but is it that different than somebody that got hammered and drove home And their answer is always what I just told you, his answer, but my buddies, I've asked, well, it's a guarantee in that case, the molester, that they've ruined that kid's life. Was drinking and driving, you don't know. In fact, most problem with it is most make it home just fine. But there are millions that don't and kill somebody, but it's not a guarantee. But I still said to him, does that give you any level of empathy for that guy? And he just said he couldn't do it, which I completely understand. But I did say, you also understand that that's going to make it even harder for future people to get help. Whereas maybe if he were to see that level and maybe try to forgive him, and it's easy for I would never say he should because it didn't happen to me. But no, it's just going to make it that much harder. That's why even coming up with that term, minor addicted person, is trying to help reduce the stigma, which probably annoys some people and say, that's a pedophile. But, even now I hate to say it, I cringe. The thought everyone celebrates that what happens to pedophiles in prison. And even recently I was thinking about it going, now I've even got some empathy for that. Because to your point, that's a wounded person. I mean, that's a person. People hate to hear it. Anything is an excuse, but it is. Something went wrong. Often they were molested themselves, right? I mean, it's crazy. There's got to be something deep seated, as with all of us with any kind of disorder, Right. I've got another
in there.
What's that?
I mean, just deep pain.
Yeah. Well, and you said you couldn't imagine what it'd be like to be attracted to a minor. Well, hear me out. I can. Because you know what's the same thing as? Being attracted to another woman, in my case. They feel the same level of attraction that I do. So what if dating a woman of my demographic was illegal, or, of my age, appropriate, was illegal? What would I do if I was not allowed to approach a woman, to date a woman, etc.? Then I would probably watch just videos of them to actually get over it so that I wouldn't then pursue it. But of course, say even that was wrong and that was something jailable. Well, I'd still probably do it because it's a compulsion. It's a compulsion just like drinking is with alcoholics. And it takes a hell of a lot of work to get over that. And how do you even begin to do the work if there's such a stigma attached? How do you raise your hand? If even there's so many alcoholics, they can't even raise their hand.
Oh, no way.
Out of shame, right? I mean, it's crazy. So
just the jump to not drinking feels like crossing an ocean. So why would they even get, using a rowboat or whatever?
Okay, thanks for listening and or watching. I meant to say on the intro, I love that Koki references, I think it's on this part, might be on part 2, but the neuroscience that she's looked into herself. I love talking neuroscience, and I think it's such an important part of recovery, understanding the whole process behind this addiction disorder. And I think at some point we also get into cold showering, and it's so important. I couldn't do it for 2 weeks when I was on vacation. Little bit. The cruise ship was a little cool, borderline cold, but definitely not when I was in other areas of Florida, which was Orlando before and after. So that is such a big part of the work, is cold shower finishes. Hopefully you've heard me talk about it. And if you haven't, please check out my YouTube videos and the ones I have one on neuroscience as well. I think it's number 10. All under Sober Cappy. And as always, please like, share, subscribe if you're on YouTube. But if you're on the podcast outlets, it's so easy to at least submit a rating. Just go right on Spotify and hit a rating, ideally 5 stars. And on Apple, you have to just go to the main podcast page and scroll down to the reviews, and you can just put a rating there. And if you're ever feeling super benevolent, a review would be so appreciated. So that'll do it. Stronger, sober.